Being used by unpatriotic interests to destabilize Nigeria in the name of national protests or strikes. This is our press text from the Rising Up for United Nigeria and a collaboration of civil society groups for national stability and cohesion, held Monday, 22nd July 2024. Gentlemen of the press, it has come to our attention that certain people with ulterior motives, driven by bitterness and personal agenda, are attempting to exploit our nation's challenges to incite unrest through protests and strikes. While we respect the fact that the right to peaceful protest is a fundamental aspect of our democracy, it is crucial to remain vigilant and not to be swayed by those who seek to destabilize our beloved fatherland for their own negative gains. These voices of opposition, bitter and disgruntled politicians and other unpatriotic interests have been on the campaign of employing sensationalism and exploiting the outcomes of the initial challenges of the visionary and bold reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to instigate Nigerians, particularly the young and middle-aged citizens, to go on protest against these temporary challenges in the country. These band of elements intend to instigate the young people using incidents of protests and riots in Kenya, which has its own peculiar interests and influences. We reiterate that the proposed nationwide protest slated to commence from August 1st, 2024 is largely being sponsored by persons who are completely faceless, whose motives are nebulous and are therefore operating nocturnally and clandestinely to undermine national unity. They are only trying to exploit the genuine national misgivings about the temporary implications of the reforms of Mr. President to execute their acts of treason and ultimately push for a regime change. It should be emphasized very clearly at this juncture that we know that there are challenges. Nobody is feigning ignorance, nobody is playing the ostrich or hiding behind the finger. But we also know that there are people like puppeteers who are behind the scene, mechanizing and inciting and fueling for this type of protest, despite the arduous efforts being put in place by government. As dear citizens of this country, we must say a big no to that and rather redirect our energies towards rebuilding the nation. The shared theme of the protest to wit end bad governance or bad government is an invitation to anarchy, disorder, and mayhem. These faceless gangsters certainly do not have any answer to what structure takes over when a democratically elected government is ousted through brigandage. In any case, all through history, when patriotic and well-meaning citizens abdicate their responsibilities and allow unpatriotic elements to hold sway, the repercussions become very grave. We must reason very clearly as citizens, whether rich or whether poor, whether struggling or whether made, to know very clearly that any call to say you are ending a legitimately elected government as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, any such attempt is an act of treason. It is an act and a call to anarchy. It is a call to topple the government. It is a call to turn Nigeria into Afghanistan or Libya, where Taliban take over. And as great citizens of this country, we say a big no to such unpatriotic calls. Indeed, the agenda of these enemies of the country is very sinister, and the intention is quite destructive. We wish to call on you all compatriots, the youth and the middle-aged citizens and all Nigerians to discountenance the protest and avoid participating in such unpatriotic acts. We appeal to well-meaning Nigerians to rally support for national stability and for cohesion. We must resist any attempt at throwing our country into turbulence or chaos. It will all look very idealistic and colorful on the surface, but the outcome is always there unsavory, and highly regrettable. Gentlemen of the press, we will recall, as our memories do not fail us, that the last mass protest that was started as EndSARS remains a very dark moment in the annals of our dear nation, Nigeria. It brings sadness and evokes painful memories of loss of lives and monumental destruction of properties, both government-owned and private properties. In saying this, we fully agree that the utmost intentions of the EndSARS protests was patriotic and even justifiable. However, the truth is that it was hijacked because there was no face to it, and the demand progressed from the issues of police brutality to a demand to end the government of the then President Muhammadu Buhari, and followed with arson and accompanied with killing of security personnel, which was introduced by criminals who had no link with the genuine EndSARS protesters. We must not allow a negative repeat of history. At this point, it was no longer the protests that many Nigerians endorsed. It had been hijacked, and government had to act decisively. Till today, we deal with those consequences of that protest with so many negative vagaries that erupted therefrom. As patriots who feel the pulse of the nation, we acknowledge the hardship occasioned by the difficult decisions of removing fuel subsidy, the floating of the naira, and so many other reforms of the government. It will be unreasonable for anyone to pretend that there are no issues. Mr. President himself has severally acknowledged that these issues are there and has been proactive in addressing them. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in the midst of addressing these challenges, has approved immediately the conversion of petrol and diesel-powered vehicles to CNG at no cost to the owners of these vehicles under the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. We trust that this will significantly lead to a reduction in the price of transportation and movement of goods and services and persons across the country. The NNPCL has assured that the refineries will commence optimal performance very shortly, and we are hoping that even the issues surrounding Dangote refineries will get the very swift attention that is needed so that the challenges of petroleum product supplies will also be significantly addressed. Again, Mr. President has established the Ministry of Livestock to tackle the perennial farmers and herders clashes which has hindered mass food production and animal husbandry. Because people have asked why creating an extra ministry, but this is for a significant purpose, because one of the key challenges facing Nigerians is the issue of food insecurity, and the President is ensuring that we work round the clock to tackle this. The government of Tinubu has approved a new minimum wage for workers in view of the realities of the time, and there is a promise to review this in years to come. The wage award is being paid to cushion the effect of hardship amongst public servants. But also, we know that it is not only civil servants as captured by NLC and TUC. There are those in the informal sector. And so there are other initiatives by the government, and which, for us here, as the bridge between the young and middle-aged citizens and government, will be opening doors to see how we can welcome innovative ideas and build better options and opportunities to embrace accelerated national economic growth and production. In continuation, the President approved for fertilizers and other farm inputs to be distributed by the government to encourage mass farming. This is in addition to the massive distribution of grains across the country. Security agencies are also aggressively clamping down on bandits that terrorize the communities and prevented farming activities. We must emphasize also that any call to anarchy will rather stretch thin of security forces and agencies, will exert more burden on them, and then the gains that we have recorded will only be reversed. The energies we should have channeled to productivity will be channeled to chaos, anarchy, and destruction. This is not what we want for our dear nation at this very crucial point in time. The student loan scheme is an initiative of the government to help students pay their tuition fee without challenges. A listening president. Let us also emphasize that the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is not resting on its oars, but exploring all possible visas to ensure that accelerated opportunities of investment are improved upon, and to also ensure that the grants and loans by the government trickle faster, because those who will build this new Nigeria and solve the problems we are talking about are none other than you and I, and our energies must not be directed to negative forces of protest and so on. The president has also been proactive in significantly addressing some of the challenges at the base of some of the base challenges we are facing. He has taken the bull by the horn to make difficult decisions, which consequences are before us. Mr. President deserves our support at this critical time. We must stand by him while offering fair and constructive criticisms where necessary. As we draw parallels from other nations, for those who are students of history, in the 80s and early 90s, the reforms of Russia, introduced by Mikhail Gorbachev, popularly espoused by Perestroika and Glasnost, were reforms that in the immediate were sort of harsh, but today we see Russia has moved to the front lines to become an undisputed world power. We are hoping and we are working assiduously to ensure that Nigeria accelerates rapidly to the front lines in the Committee of Nations. Fellow Nigerians, while recognizing that our nation has challenges, it is not enough to lend ourselves to the grand designs of those whose interest is to destabilize and set the country ablaze. We must be watchful and protect our democracy and our country. Consequently, we must all reject the protests as proposed. As an alternative, we call on all young and middle-aged citizens and indeed all Nigerians to hold national rallies to support the government and peacefully make specific demands on issues and areas we demand action from the government. We have also opened our channels to further aggregate the innovative ideas of the young and middle-aged citizens as we work with Mr. President to drive our country to greater heights. The President is a listening leader. We must reiterate that time and time again he has reversed himself based on public opinion. He did so with the appointment of the board of the ICPC and the governing councils of tertiary institutions and the cybercrime protection levy, which we know was reversed when there was an outcry from citizens. Therefore, we must avoid the destructive protests being proposed by persons we do not know. We do not understand their personal or group grievances. We cannot reach out to them for any form of discussions. We do not appreciate their end game as we do not even understand. We call on all security agencies to be on red alert. We appeal to political, religious, and opinion leaders to prevail on their subjects not to participate in these protests. The leaders of these groups are unpatriotic. We must still emphasize. We urge Nigerians to thoroughly assess the motive behind the calls for national protests. Let us distinguish between the genuine concerns aimed at fostering national development and those driven by ulterior motives aimed at creating chaos. Our unity and stability are paramount, and we must not allow ourselves to be manipulated by those who do not have the nation's best interest at heart. As a group championing the cause of over 120 million young and middle-aged Nigerians, we invite all the youth and the middle-aged citizens of our dear country, Nigeria, to unite towards building a great and prosperous Nigeria. Together, let us stand for constructive dialogue, peaceful resolution of issues, and the continued progress of our dear nation, Nigeria. Let us work towards building a great nation that thrives on mutual respect, understanding, and collective effort. May God bless Nigeria and guide us towards a prosperous and more blessed, united Nigeria with an assured future. Stated that we are concerned about development in the country. We know that there are challenges. What we are saying is that we must frontally confront these challenges together. Rather than exerting our energies in directions of distraction, rather than exerting our energies in directions of bringing down the nation, rather than exerting our energies in saying that we want to end this government, which in clear terms, those who are promoters of this protest are saying the government should be toppled, the government should be overrun, the government should be pushed out by any means or any words you want to use to cloak it. It is a call for anarchy, chaos, anomie, disorder, and destruction. As concerned citizens of this country, we are saying a big no to that. There are vistas of opportunities which we are still engaging with government. We will still be exploring. We will be holding government accountable and we will be meeting with government per time. Initiatives have come up, and we must make it very clear that the president has taken the bull by the horn on several points and at several scores. Issues which have not been addressed properly right from the inception of independence of this country are being faced frontally. They come with consequences. We are feeling the pain, and we are saying that we should explore the softest options or the best possible options that will not lead to anarchy and chaos. The recent local government or the Supreme Court judgment for allocations to go directly to local government will trigger rapid development across our local governments. And that is what, as young and middle-aged citizens, as youth of our country, young citizens, middle-aged citizens, patriots, we should be concerned about. How can we begin to ensure that productivity thrives at the local government level? How can we begin to ensure that the comparative advantages of our country are being explored, the potentials of our youth from the grassroots, the overpopulated city centers where youth are not productive? Employment is in the rural areas. How can we tackle insecurity together in partnership with the security agencies, rather than exerting our efforts in what will spread thin our security efforts of our security agencies? So we are calling for alternate measures that will not reverse the gains that have been recorded. Nobody is even talking about the state governors and holding these governors accountable and how we can trigger productivity. We wait for when the problem gets to its kernel, and then all push is Tinubu must go. Tinubu must go. That should not be it. We are saying that there should be other plausible options to see how we can build up productivity, ramp up national production, reverse food insecurity, and grow the economy for the good of all. Create more jobs for the good of all. My colleagues will even make some inputs at this juncture. Please, ask.